Welcome back to Love Dripping from the Walls. I'm your host, Elizabeth Cunningham, and this week's episode of Love Dripping from the Walls is a drop-in recording of a conversation my friend Keira and I were having about past relationships. The conversation her and I were having was so moving and inspiring for me that I asked her if we could record it. So we were talking specifically about past relationships that crossed over unhealthy into manipulative or abusive relationships. We have left out or changed some of the names and specifics to maintain anonymity for Keira and her family and friends. Listen in as we discuss what it is like getting out of traumatic relationships, how we rediscovered ourselves, and how to love again.
Like, have that be what they're left with.
Yeah. And I think that, so I am recording, and I said, I can cut things out.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, switching positions here. Yeah, I think that is definitely, one thing is that you want, I guess I'll speak from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel the same way, where I don't want people, I have been, in relationships where it got to the point where I didn't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Or where it was clearly, manipulative or abusive or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it is an interesting position to be in, especially for someone like you and someone like me, where we just want to love on people all the time, and we really do see the potential in people and the greatness in people and the love that people do have and, all of it. And so regardless of, it's just, this is why I wanted to have you on my podcast in the first place. It's just because you love people so deeply and unconditionally, and to have a relationship, go the way that it went for you, and then still want to speak highly of that person and to have, them be left in a way that other people are not left judging them, or that they're not diminished in any way. They did what they did.
Right.
The relationship went how it went.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
No.
You're not condoning
Yeah.
that behavior, and you still, love and honor that person. And I think that's something that I've been really struggling with as well, because it's really easy to talk about past relationships and have people, especially people that love and care about you, be on your side about how terrible that person was, or, how,
totally.
how they, should jump off a bridge. I don't know, whatever. Nobody has said that to me, but.
But it's the people in your life, wanna, I don't know what that is, but I do know what you're talking about, where sharing with someone, it's they want to validate you choosing to not be with that person, but to a, I don't know, it's almost like they have more hateful feelings towards that person than I even do. But I guess I'm also not, it's just not how I operate, really. I don't hate. I don't think there's anyone that I hate, actually. I'm thinking about it, I'm there's no one that I can say oh, I hate this person. That's just not there for me. Mm-hmm. But I experience a lot more of that, that energy, that hatred, that I don't even know what else to call it, but from, people in my life towards people in my past who haven't been kind to me, or haven't treated me in the way that those people think I deserve to be treated.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because you are such an amazing and loving person that it is shocking to other people that someone wouldn't treat you with love and respect, and the way that people think that you should be treated.
Okay, yeah, I totally see that, because like with you sharing your experiences with me, I have the same thing. I'm like, what? Really? Like, how? She's so amazing. Like, but then I guess that comes back to like, it's not about you or me.
Yeah.
Right.
So we hit record in the middle of our conversation, but yeah, one of the things that we were sharing is that when you're in a relationship that isn't healthy, that you think that it's about you, and it's not about you.
No.
Yeah, but that's where it comes back to, and other people have that too, but that's how it shows up with other people, where they're like, you shouldn't be treated that way, or and all that stuff, which isn't not true.
Right.
And that behavior doesn't have anything to do with you.
Right. It has everything to do with that person and what they're
dealing with and what they think is okay and all of it. Yeah.
But then there's like that underlying experience of like I shared for me, but it's like, I'm not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this underlying like, I'm not worth it, and if I was this, or if I was that, if I was more this way, then this person would want to treat me differently than they're treating me, or they'd want to participate in the relationship differently than they're choosing to participate.
Yeah.
And that, or like put more effort in, or
if only I did this, then they will put more effort in, or they'll see that I'm doing that, or they'll because for me
realize what they're missing. Or what they'll miss if they don't, sort of a thing.
Yeah, totally. And hold on. Is this on? Oops. Goodbye. Okay. So weird. Technology is so weird.
Yeah, I'm not
very
tech savvy.
Okay, cool. I put it on. This is the whole like, we can edit it later thing. Okay, there we go. But yeah, no, for me it showed up as like, I know I can do this. Like, I know that I can figure this out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, I know that I can do something or be a certain way, or I know that there's something that is going to make this work. And I just haven't figured it out yet.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's how it showed up for me. It was just like, I know it. I know that I can,
It's like determination.
Yeah, oh my God, if anybody knows me, like, I am so determined. I'm determined. Like, I am unwavering.
Yeah, totally.
But that has everything to do with me, and it had nothing to do with the relationship, and had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And like anything like that. Just like however he was being had nothing to do with me or the relationship either. That was just like what he was doing, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah. I'm seeing some of myself in that too, and like this, like, I had it that like I was someone that I don't give up.
Exactly.
So,
like, I don't give up.
Or I don't give up on people.
Exactly. I don't give up on people. I don't give up on people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, and if I give up on this person who I love, then what does that mean about me and other people? Like, what does that mean about, who I can be? for people.
Yeah. Totally. Oh, goodness. That was totally there for me. Like,
Yeah, and I had to give that up. And one of the things that you shared before we hit record was about the aftermath of coming out of that relationship. And I think yours happened a little bit later on than mine did. But the trust, like rebuilding the trust. But for me, I really noticed that, like, it showed up in, like, trusting other people. You know, like rebuilding the trust that I could have with other people. But it really showed up for me in trusting myself.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, how can I be trusted to make life decisions ever again? Like that's...
Oh, that was, yeah.
Yeah, how can I be trusted to make life decisions? Because it was, you know, like... Because you make this huge life decision with this person, and then all of a sudden it just goes totally south, and then you're like, clearly I'm terrible at life.
Totally.
I can't be trusted to make any decisions, and so this is it. Like, you know, like how am I gonna operate from here? And it was really for me, it was rebuilding the trust in myself and rebuilding the trust in, like, who I know myself to be.
I almost forgot about that. I had that same experience. I forgot. It was almost like everything that I had thought about myself, about others, about life, like all just was like broken down.
Yeah, it's all been put into question. It's all been dismantled. It's all been proven wrong.
I felt like I had no bearings for anything.
Right.
Like there was nothing grounding me to anything anymore.
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah, that.
It's a very lost and alone and dramatic feeling.
Really, though. And it really took something for me to... I think I'm still working on that in a lighter way. In a way that I've made a lot of progress between now and then.
Yeah.
And it's still just like a practice. Because there was definitely some rebuilding of trusting my own decisions as in love, and trusting people, trusting like humanity too, in a way, like trusting that like things will work out in life. You know, like this, like I had this very positive outlook on life, and that just was a very negative outlook on life after this experience. And it's taken something for me to get back to like, I don't know, looking at things in a positive way, but I think it's different now. It's not so blindly positive. Like before, I think my positive, like looking at things positively, was almost like a coping mechanism or something. Like it was like my way of being about life. Yeah. My way of like dealing with like whatever
that
showed
determined,
up. Yeah.
Like bit, right?
Like this
you
hope,
don't give up. Like no, like it's gonna
work out.
It's all gonna work out.
It's all gonna work out. I mean, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fine,
regardless of the reality of the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that did not happen. It did not work out the way I wanted it to. And so to then kind of rebuild from there this outlook of how to have positivity in my life and be, you know, not be like cynical. You know?
Yeah,
like,
well, because you don't want it to, affect that, and I felt the same way. Like, I didn't want it to close off what was possible for me.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the things that I was really angry about. was like, because you are so positive, and it's just, and I say you, I mean the royal you, or me and you. I mean me and you, actually. That's what I mean. I mean me and you. When I say you, I mean me and you are so positive, and it's just like, yeah, it just like made me upset that it just closed off what I thought could be possible.
Yeah.
You know?
That that like sense of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like that sense of like something bigger. It made me it made me different words.
You were left with.
I was left with. Thank you. I was left with feeling very like I had to be really realistic for a while. There was like this like sense of I need to be really realistic with all my choices and base all of it off of logic. There was no sense of like possibility, opportunity, something bigger than what I could just make sense of and see in front of me. And so that was kind of this transition was into like seeing something more than that for myself.
Yeah.
You know, like seeing that possibility can still be present in a way that isn't like blinding me from like what's actually happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Because I think that's where I was in that relationship, was that like I was so positive and like hopeful that like I was focusing so much on that I wasn't actually like present to what was actually happening in that relationship. And that I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, but I just think that the way that I was being positive, like a positive person at that point was just not. I'm saying it wasn't not realistic, but it wasn't serving me. It wasn't serving. It was kind of over, like, blank. It was, how do I word this? Like, it was
only giving you one point of view.
Yeah. Like, I wasn't able to see it any other way. I wasn't able to see anything else for myself. Like, I wasn't able to be present. I wasn't open to the idea of anything else but that. Like, that vision, that, like, idea of, like, oh, this is how it's gonna go, and this is how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And I think and I think there was part of me that almost knew that like if the relationship didn't go that way, that then I would be left with this like it would break down like what I had already decided about life. Like, you know how we talked about like, I'm trying to piece this together. So, you know, we talked about how like after being in a relationship with this sort of context, that it kind of broke down, like, at least for me, I was saying it kind of broke down all those, like, everything I decided about life and everything I had, you know, decided about myself and about other people and who I can trust, who I can't trust, like, all of that, like, believing things will work out. I think there's part of me that almost knew, like, subconsciously in the background, that if that relationship didn't go that way, that I would be left in that place. And that was like, like, I don't think I could even go there. Like, that was like so terrifying for like that some part of my brain, that I was willing to just keep looking towards this hope, this idea, this like positivity, this like light, this vision.
Yeah, no,
that I wasn't able to actually see, really get present to the impact of what was actually happening.
Yeah, well, it's easier to stay in the vision of it than to listen to that part of you that says, you know, and that part of you is also not necessarily true, quote unquote true either, of the like what it would mean about you if it didn't work out.
What do you mean? Can you say that again?
Like the part of you that was like, oh, well, if it doesn't go this way, then it'll mean that, you know, I can't be there for people like I want to be, or, you know, I can't make it work, or I'm not worthy, or, you know, all of that you make it mean if it's not going to work out. Like, that's not true either.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what you're left with when you end a relationship like that.
Yeah.
And it's not true, but it's just what's there.
It's what, like, my experience was at that time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I felt the same way in, you know, leaving as well, where I knew, like, that was one of the reasons why I stayed too, was because I, like, that little part of you that's like in the back of your mind that's like, what is it going to mean about you, or what is it going to mean about me, or what are other people going to think, or what's going to, you know,
what's my life going to be like?
What's my life going to be like if it doesn't work out how I want it to, or how I've told people that it's going to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because for me it was like, you know, I've told people that I'm going to be with this person and, you know, or it's going to go this way and it's great and blah, 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 and like whatever. And now I'm like, oh, it's actually not. Like the worse and worse that it got, the more and more and more it was like, oh, shoot, it's not going to go that way. That's how it was for me. And then it got to the point for me where what you were talking about was, like, you have this big shiny vision, and I did too, this like big shiny vision, and it kind of keeps you out of reality.
Totally.
keeps you with like something to hold on to.
Yeah.
But the question that I asked myself that brought me back to reality at one point was, it was when I started sharing with people what was actually going on, because I hadn't been sharing with people what was actually going on.
Me neither.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was when I started sharing with people what was actually happening. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I was driving the car and I just had this thought, like, if I were my own best friend, listening to myself say all of these things about what is actually happening, what would I tell myself? And I was like, I would tell myself to leave.
Yeah.
I would tell myself to get out. That was one of those moments where it was just like, whew, okay, all right, well, that's real.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. And then it was like, okay, and then there's the taking action of it, which is scary and hard, and you have all of those moments of doubt, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, should I do this? Or, you know, kind of the pulling back. I remember, like, I was like, you know, having conversations where I was saying enough to get my point across, but not saying everything. Because I was with him.
Okay, got it.
Because I was scared to say absolutely everything. You know, like I want to be over forever. what I was saying was, I want you to move out. But what I wanted to say was, I want to be over forever.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I was just scared to, like, I was scared of what would happen. I was scared about, you know, putting it all out there, you know.
And for you, was it, like, once you had decided that that's what you wanted, was it, like, did you stick with it? Like, was there ever times where you, like, considered changing your mind, or was it, like, once you decided, you were like, that's my decision?
Once I decided, that was my decision.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my, there was a time and it was when I could see, it was like I got present to the impact. I got present to that, like, reality of what was actually happening, and it was in, like, one specific moment, which I'm not going to share in this.
Yeah, I said that you can share as much as you'd like to share, or as little as you would like to share.
Because I just don't think it's necessary. But there was a specific moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
It was like, this is not how my life is going to be.
Yeah.
This is not what I'm committed to for myself. This is not what I'm, it's just not, no. And it was in that moment that I decided, and I went to my parents' house, and I talked to my mom and because they were like, what is going on? Talked to my mom and my stepdad, and just shared with them about and they're like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so much makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
You know? Because they could see that there was just
something
something different about how I was being, and you know, and then from then, at that point, I lived with them for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard, but it was like, once I'd made that choice, it was like, that's, anytime I felt any of the things that I had been feeling, which was a lot of things, a wide range of lots of feelings, there was like that, I had already chosen, and I knew that was what was right for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that once you make that decision that you know is right, that it's easier to be steadfast.
Yeah.
You know? And, oh, you know what? I actually lied. I'm like remembering that conversation, and I'm like, no, I did say I wanted it to be 100% over.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay.
I totally did. I'm like, what? How did that conversation go? No, I did. I was like, this is done.
Uh-huh.
And I was really, I was steadfast in that. And then I did a little bit of backpedaling. About a couple days later, I agreed to go to some like couples therapy sessions, which didn't end up panning out. Or well, I mean, we went to 2.
You did.
Yeah, and it made my decision more clear.
Got it.
Yeah. I was like, no, I made the right decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couples therapy. I've never done that before.
You know what was interesting? I had a really good experience, actually. Like, even though it still resulted in us not being together.
Right.
I had a really good experience with couples therapy. I thought that our therapist was great. Like, I thought that, you know, they were really amazing. And I'd never gone to therapy before, ever, for anything. And so I was a little nervous.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't really know. Like, and I also, like, I just, it takes a lot for me to talk about my feelings.
Really?
Yes.
That's so surprising to
I
me.
know. Everyone is so surprised when I say that.
What?
It really does. Like, I don't like, I mean, I will talk about my feelings if I know that it's necessary to talk about my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, like, I almost want to say willingly, like, just, I have gotten a lot better about it, though, because I did, anyway, that's a completely different story, but at that point in time, I was like, I don't want to share my feelings with a complete stranger about, like, all the shit that's been happening.
Yeah.
And so I talked to a couple of my friends are therapists, and so I was like, okay, well, how do I know? Like, how do I know that this is a good therapist? And one of my therapist friends said that if you're going to see a therapist about your relationship, like a couples therapist, their main goal should be on the relationship and not on, like, each individual person. Right? Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
That's something I had never thought about until, like, I don't know, until I guess had a conversation with James about, like, that concept had never even occurred to me.
What concept?
Like, the relationship, as opposed to, like,
yeah.
the two people in the relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that the relationship as its own, I don't know, as its own, like, thing, as its own entity, like...
Yeah, no, the relationship is its own entity. Like, yeah, and so...
It's very cool to think about relationships in that way.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so neat. Yeah, that was something that I did, that I, through a program, like, discovered that the relationship is, it's, like, several years ago where I was first introduced to that concept, was that the relationship is its own entity, and I was like, holy shit.
Right?
It's like, that makes, because then it's like, because one of the other things in ending this relationship, and one of the conversations that I had with someone, was, what they said was, you know, you are your own homework. And he is his own homework. And the relationship is your homework. And the relationship is his homework. And if he's not doing his homework, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
You can't make anyone do anything. Which is what I was trying to do. I was like, no, I can figure, like what we were saying, like, I was like, no, I can figure this out. I can do this. Like, I can be a certain way. I can do a thing. I can create something. Or if only I do this, then maybe this will happen. You know, like, turn over every stone.
You were trying to do his relationship homework,
I
too.
I was trying to do his relationship homework. And
me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were just like, nope. If he's not doing his homework, you can't do anything about that. And I was told that that was the most blunt way that I was told that. But I had been told that in other various ways. But the way that this person framed it like that really sunk in with me. And I was like, oh shit. But yeah, like, the relationship being its own entity, right? So when I went to couples therapy, he was very focused on the therapist was very focused on the relationship and bringing everything back to the relationship and what and all this stuff. And so I had a really good experience with that, and, like, just the way that he was with us and the questions that he was asking, and, like, the space that he provided in his sessions. I was just like, wow, this is a really great experience, even though I'm still very solidified in that I'm leaving.
Did you get, like, any sort of, like, sense of closure? Or
I did.
Like that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally did, because I just how it went between him and I, my partner and I, like how the session, like, because the therapist was great.
Mm-hmm.
And how it went between, like, my partner and I, it was like, yeah, this relationship is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, it's sad.
Oh,
you know?
It always is.
Yeah.
It's like,
and
even when you know it's the right choice for you, it doesn't make it like easy, you know,
right.
or it's always it's just it's a very unique experience and feeling of ending a relationship, because it's like you put so much energy and into this other person and into like the relationship as its own entity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's always something that I've had challenges with in friendships too, in any kind of relationship. It's like I don't understand how people will be in a relationship. I'm always the person that's like, oh, I want to be friends after a relationship. Usually, in most
cases.
Because I'm like, well, this is a person that I love and care about.
Right.
Like, why would I, like, just because the relationship changes, why would I all of a sudden just not want to have this person in my life?
Yeah.
That's so bizarre and confusing to me. I don't get that. Like, to me, like, my brain just doesn't wrap around that.
Yeah. Well, but you are just such a loving, you're just such a loving and you are an unconditionally loving person. You're like, oh, we don't have the same relationship? Well, I still love you.
Yeah.
But, and I'm the same way. Like, but anyway, sorry, I cut you off from what you were going to say.
No,
but,
it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I was going to say. I'm just going to acknowledge that my experience in this conversation is I'm really enjoying the conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm also, like, I have been feeling challenged with, I don't know, call it baby brain, or call it, like, that seems to be the name that people call it, of just, like, I'm really forgetful, I lose track of what I'm saying. It's been happening a lot to me recently. So I'm noticing that showing up in the conversation and, like, wanting to, like, resisting it, wanting to sound a certain way, or...
Yeah. I think you're doing great.
Well, thank you.
Regardless of baby brain. to the listeners, Keira is pregnant.
I'm pregnant. And since I've been pregnant, I'm needing to write a lot of lists right now. I have lots of Post-it notes on things and to remind me of everything I need to be doing, because I just, I don't know. It's a new level of spaciness.
Yeah. Did you experience this with your first pregnancy too?
No.
Really?
No, I experienced it afterwards with the sleep deprivation.
But that's a different thing.
That's different. This feels about the same, but I'm actually sleeping. And, well, yeah, for the most part. And I don't know. Maybe it's because I also, last time I didn't have a kid already, right? So I worked at a sandwich shop for like 25 hours a week. That was all I was responsible for.
Yeah. And now
when
you
I
have
was pregnant. Now I have a kindergartner has full of the most loving energy. I love him, and I wish that I could, like, reciprocate energetically with his level of energy, but he's just has way more energy than I do, and I'm a nanny and I work, and so just I think all of that combined probably
that's a lot.
An impact on
That would have anybody have a hard time like remembering things and having to be more diligent about. It's just that your life is expanding. It's like you have even if it weren't a baby, if it were a business, and you were like adding on, there was like new responsibilities to yourself, and you're expanding your life in some capacity. At some point, you have to start creating systems because you're just a human being, and you're capable of what you're capable of. And then you add systems on top of that to keep you going in your expanded life, What
kind of system could I create for being able to it's like I've noticed I feel like I'm having difficulty putting my thoughts into words that accurately represent what it is that I'm thinking and feeling.
Yeah, well, I think that one thing that you did really well is just say what's there for you. And just be like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Instead of like being over there dealing with it silently.
In my head.
In your head about it. Yeah, totally. Because that takes up...
talk about it.
Yeah, because that takes up mental energy. It takes up mental energy to think about how you're trying to think about things and say them. And eloquently
speak my mind.
Right, and try and get it right, and trying to like not sound dumb, and trying to like like all of that's going on in your brain is taking up a lot of mental energy instead of just setting that aside and like speaking.
Yes, I do notice I have more. It's like I now have this open space in my mind after just saying it. Like acknowledging, like, yeah, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm thinking.
Thank you for
Let
saying
it into the world, so it can then just move along.
Yeah. And now, okay, I got it.
Yeah,
I got that.
Thanks.
All right, cool. So you love everyone unconditionally.
Yeah.
You're so sweet.
I do. And I feel like I'm getting more present with that as time goes on. I feel like there's been kind of an ebb and flow and
well, especially after getting out of that type of relationship too, because that was kind of what we were talking about on the phone-ish the other day, is that being someone who loves people unconditionally, and then being in that type of relationship, and then going through everything that you go through, all the like the spaces and stages and doubt and trust and all of it, to then get back to really being your amazing, loving self, Like it's really amazing that you did that, because you didn't have to. Seriously.
I felt like I needed to.
You felt like you needed to, but like in the realm of like have to or not have to, like you didn't have to. Like you really could have just been like, this thing happened to me. It was unfair. I can't trust people. Like you really could have. One way that it could have gone is that you could have completely shut yourself down and been completely justified in that for the rest of your life.
Wow. Yeah, that's not I'm not going to live my life that way.
Right, exactly.
I totally could have.
Yeah, and you're just like, no, like who I am is unconditional love for people. Like that's, hi, my name's Keira. I love people unconditionally. Let's move on from here.
Let's move on from here. Yeah. I think it did take something for me to kind of get back to that space of unconditional love.
Yeah.
It was a growth process.
Yeah.
There was a period of time where I was in that space of like, I don't know who to love. Who's it okay to love? Who's it safe to love?
Yeah.
And I kind of narrowed down my view on that.
Yeah.
Like it was all of a sudden it became conditional.
Yeah.
Really, that's really all it is. Then it was like, okay, moving forward, who is it safe to love? Who is it okay to love? Who am I not going to have other people judge me for loving, right? Because that was part of it too, is that once I started sharing with people, you know, my experience in that relationship, it was like,
how could you do that?
How could you how could you not hate this person now, even after the fact? And it's like, I don't, you know, clearly I'm not okay with some of the things that occurred.
Yeah, again, like
right?
not condoning it, not making it okay, you know.
But that's separate from the fact that, you know, that I actually have love for this person, and it's definitely a different love. It's like love for a human being. It's not the same kind of like romantic love that was once present.
Yeah.
You know, definitely a different kind of love, but it was, you know, it was like, you know, at what point was it not okay, is what I started asking myself. At what point should I have stopped loving this person? And I felt like there was something wrong with me that didn't happen. Right? That it wasn't, felt like there was something wrong with me for continuing to love someone who, you know, didn't treat me in the way that I felt like I deserved to be treated. Right? And so that really just narrowed my self-expression too. Yeah. Because when I am being just unconditional love, like, that's when I feel like the most myself.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. That's Keira. Hi. You know, like that. Yeah. That I'm like, oh yeah, okay. It feels right. Like, it feels like me. And when I'm not being that, it's like this, I don't know, it's a smaller version of myself in a way. And so it was kind of interesting to notice at a certain point how I'd been narrowing that view and moving forward and dating and trying to figure out, you know, how much love do I give at what point, what's safe. Yeah. You know, like,
trying to strategize your love.
Strategize how much and who and where my love is appropriately placed. And it
sounds exhausting.
Yeah. It was really challenging and tiring to try and figure that out. And it's so it was interesting in like my current relationship, right? As we, you know, was dating, you like learn more about each other and talk about things, and like something that came up in our relationship is that we don't agree on certain things. There's certain things that we just don't agree on. And that was one of those things that came up for me. It was like, oh, well, is it okay for me to be with someone that I don't agree with these things on?
Can you give an example, or is that too much?
No, I can't. Because it's...
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna... Not right now. Just...
But the point is that that's what came up for you, is that, like, you know, being, like, having to agree on something or not. Yeah.
Yeah, like, feeling like there's these, you know, there's these places, there's a lot that we do agree on. We agree on a lot when it comes to parenting. We agree a lot, you know, there's a lot of things that we are on the same page about, and there are some things that are kind of, can be confronting conversations to talk about that we do not agree on. And there was a period of time early on in our relationship where I was challenged by that, and I was like, okay, like, if we're talking about having, we both want to have kids and have a family and, do this. Do I want my children growing up not having the same, like, values that I do?
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that I actually ended up calling Reed, our mutual friend about for some coaching on, and it was in that conversation that I ended up discovering that I had been limiting my love in some ways, and trying to, basically what that was me trying to figure out if it was okay to love someone that had a different idea than me.
Mm-hmm.
And James's stance was, hey, I actually think it's really great to have, people in relationships have different views on things, and to just teach children how to come up with their own views and their own ways of seeing things, and to share with them both of our sides and have them kind of find what's right for themselves. And I was like, wow, and I really admired that, but for some reason I couldn't get completely on board until that conversation. And in that conversation with Reed, I realized that it was more important to me to teach my children that it's okay to love people that have different views than you. And it's okay to, like, disagree, and that love can still be so present, like so present, even in those moments where you're actively disagreeing. And having, an argument about it or whatever, sharing your side, and having those kinds of conversations, love can still just be so present there. And then within that, I also ended up realizing all the places, because I think Reed asked me, like, is there other places in your life that you do this? And I was like, oh my gosh, I've totally just been, ever since coming out of that relationship, I've just been doing that in general with everyone, anywhere. Like, who is it okay to love? Like, even meeting someone new, just like a person walking down the street, right? It's like, you don't know anything about that person. You don't know the choices they've made. You don't know the things that they've done in their life. You don't know, like, how the ways of being that they've been, right? You can still, like, love that person, like, love just them as a human being, like, have love be present in a conversation with them without knowing all those things, and you don't have to wait to know the person enough to share that love. It's just about who you're being and what you're bringing in the interaction. And it just was like a brain explosion for me, having that realization that I had been going around having those conversations, and love was not present.
Or love was, or if it were present, it was limited.
It was limited. It was like this, like, little amount that felt safe or okay, or like I wouldn't be judged for having this small amount of love. It was like, here's this little bit of love for you. just a little bit. And now I get to go around being like, just hi, I love you. Right? And have that be, I mean, obviously I don't just say that to people. I'm not that. Like, maybe it's a whole another
depending
level.
on the context.
Depending on the person.
Because I have seen you just be like, hi, I love you. I do the same thing.
That's true.
Though.
But that's
we're very, like,
no.
Exactly. But we're very kindred souls. Where, if I know you and I love you, like, the first thing out of my mouth is, I love you. When I see you.
That's why we clicked so like
Yeah.
instantly. It's like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you.
Yeah. It's like, wow.
So much love.
It is. It's amazing. Oh my God, you're so adorable. It was when I ran into you after we had our phone call, and then I saw you in person, and then we just saw each other, and we were just like, oh, I love you, and I gave you this huge hug, and then I can't remember, but I think I said something about like your pregnant belly or something like that, and you were like, yeah, I'm making a baby. Oh my God, I died. I was just like, I didn't know that I could love you more, but apparently I can. Like, your joy is just infectious and wonderful, and it's like your joy and your love is like this big warm blanket that just like, regardless of, when someone gives you a blanket and regardless of whether you asked for the blanket or not, you're like, oh, this is nice. That's what your love is like.
I mean, it's something to remind myself of sometimes. I feel like, because I'm not, there are times when I'm not in that space.
Yeah.
When I'm irritable or...
You mean you're still a human?
And, yeah, right? But then it's like it's almost like I make myself wrong for being anything other than just that blanket.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also important to remember that it's like I don't need to be...
There's not
like sometimes other people's experience of me is different than my internal experience of myself.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. That is true for everyone.
And so
absolutely.
When you say things like that, like to me, like sometimes in my head, I'm like, really? Like, is that really how I occur? Like, that's nice. That's not how I always experience myself to be, But it's like, oh, if I just embrace that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like this pressure to be a certain way is just kind of lifted, because it's like, well, what if that's people's experience of me, even when I don't feel like I'm at my most loving, or when my internal experience of myself is different than, or is, maybe not how I want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That maybe that's just in my head. Like, I don't know, like when I showed up to that night, I was kind of in a weird space in my head. I was thinking about a lot of different things, and like I was happy to be there, happy to see people, and I was also having this like internal experience of myself of that I should be being a certain way, or that I was thinking too hard about some things, and I maybe should be more relaxed, and
all those conversations,
that stuff that was going on, but that wasn't other people's experience of me. Like that wasn't was that your experience of me? That like, man, Keira, you need to relax a little bit. And stop thinking so much.
No, that wasn't my experience of you. But I also understand, too, that regardless of how people are outwardly, that they can still be experiencing other things, like internally or in their life, or, dealing with whatever it is that they're dealing with. So one of my mom's favorite quotes is, always be kind to people because you don't know what battles they're facing.
I like that.
Yeah, because, even people who are really happy and loving, like you, as we've talked about, like, you've experienced some really difficult times in your life. And I'm sure that we touched on it a little bit, but, you know, people didn't really know, like, what was going on.
Mm-mm.
And so you really don't know how, you know, just because someone's, however they're being outwardly is one way, doesn't mean that that's who they experience themselves to be. And it doesn't mean anything about what they're dealing with in their life.
That's true.
You know? And I think that one of the things that's really great about you, and I know that, you know, you've done a lot of, like, personal growth and, like, that, you know, maybe this couldn't be said about you, you know, a couple of years ago, but I feel safe saying this about you now, is that you're able to recognize in yourself that that outward expression of you, like, that outward expression of you is authentic. It's not covering, like, when you were being that way the other day,
yeah,
it's not like you were trying to cover anything up.
Oh yeah,
you know, like, you weren't
I'm not faking it, like,
right, like,
yeah.
it wasn't fake, it wasn't a facade, it wasn't a show, it wasn't just, like, trying to survive something or anything. Like, it's truly who you are, like, for real, like, that's.
Thank you for listening to Love Dripping from the Walls. If you like this podcast, let us know. Like, rate, review, send audio messages. You can even become a monthly sponsor. Log on to Anchor and click sponsor. Keep listening and keep loving.